Hey guys, Krabby Critics here, and today I'm going to be breaking down the new Gears of War 5 trailer. So just to be clear, I'm breaking down the official announcement trailer, not the Gears of War 5 cinematic trailer. The cinematic trailer was the one that was released upon its announcement over at E3, and this one was published on YouTube just like a day or so after E3. And this one is a lot shorter. However, I think it contains a lot more in it that is more revealing of the plot and where they're taking the series. The E3 one definitely had a little bit more dialogue and interactions between the characters, which is all circling around a dead body, which Kate is very distraught over, and that leads us to believe that this is Oscar, considering he was her last living relative. He's the only character which I believe would call for such an emotional reaction from her. So I really don't think it's anybody else but Oscar. And honestly, on my personal opinion, I kind of glad that they offed Oscar, considering I didn't think Oscar really fit in the Gears universe, and he was not a good character in my opinion. They tried to make him kind of funny and stuff like that, and he just wasn't funny to me. And then also all the different skins that they came out for the multiplayer with him, from Lachador, Oscar to that was just bad in my opinion. I hope that the coalition learns from that and they clear away from those ridiculous types of multiplayer skins for Gears 5. But anyway, we see JD rocking a new shaved head and a beard and more scars on his face, looking all grizzled up. He's got bigger, bulkier armor, as well as everybody else does. And he also has a weird arm thing, which looks like a burn treatment type medical futuristic version of that. That's what it looks like compared to real life stuff. However, him needing to, like, all of a sudden singeing up in pain, pressing a button, and then relieving himself in some way, that does imply something else, I believe. I could see this being some sort of weird emulsion type new thing, but all we can really do is speculate at this point. It is orange looking, so that would correlate with the Swarm with their little orange goo stuff. But to go along with this grizzled look, he now has a cold and cut off personality. He is not very nice to Kate about her now lost loved one. He just wants to get along with their orders. And considering him saying that, it does seem that they rejoined the coalition. And that would make sense because of their now common enemy of the Swarm. But everything else that's in that trailer is pretty much in this trailer also. So let's just get into it and I'll give you guys my breakdown of it. So obviously she's having nightmares and dreams, seeing pictures of the Swarm. Now right here, that is like first 10 seconds of this trailer. It actually shows a lot right here. So as we can see, she's getting visions. She's seeing images of the Swarm. She's already seen the Swarm though, so maybe she's just having flashbacks, that kind of stuff. You can speculate. However, we see the image of her mom and Queen Mira. The Swarm took her mother. They were trying to obviously make her their new queen in a weird way. And then she gives her grandmother's necklace over to Kate, and it's the locust symbol. It is Queen Mira's pendant. We know that she's the granddaughter of Queen Mira. She does not know that though. For all we know, she doesn't even know Queen Mira exists. And she definitely has never seen Queen Mira before. And here is an image of her in Gears of War 2, Queen Mira, the first time we see here in the Gears series, which tells you that this Swarm thing, whatever interaction they're having in Kate's head, they're sending her actual images and showing her things that she does not know, things she has not seen before. She's not just being haunted by images she's already seen. She's being shown things. So she, in a way, she's being taught and prepped for being the new queen or whatever. And then it also shows her mom, Reyna, and then shows Marcus. Now, I think showing Marcus right then and there, that is a big thing showing that. Could mean a couple things. One, Marcus killed Queen Mira. Maybe the Swarm is sending subliminal messages being like, don't like this guy, you should kill him, or something of that sort. Or, now hear me out. In Gears of War 3, they had, at the end when Adam Phoenix is saying how it could have made her stop and stuff like that, he's saying things that give you the idea that he had interactions with Queen Mira before the whole war started. And then with the books that came out after, the comic books and whatnot, pretty much the whole lore of it is the Locusts were having a struggle with the Lambent. They were having a fight with them underground the whole time before the humans even knew about them. And Queen Mira went to Adam Phoenix for help. And as he was trying to help her, he couldn't really because of the Coalition making him do other things and whatnot. And so eventually she was forced to invade and attack all the humans to get away from the Lambent. So even though, like, yeah, Locusts are evil and whatnot, they were doing this just out of survival. They were just attacking to get away from the Lambent. So we know that Adam Phoenix had interactions with Mira before all of this happened. So, this is just a thought. Could be completely wrong. What if Adam Phoenix and Mira paired up and Reyna is technically Marcus's stepsister or whatever, half-sister, however you want to say that. And so then that would make Kate and JD cousins. Now, what pushes me to believe that is the fact that in Gears of War 4, at least I thought there was some sort of a romantic connection between JD and Kate. I think it was pretty obvious that they were gearing towards that. However, also in Gears of War 5, they're cut off and there's nothing happening there. That could literally just be the Coalition being like, we're making them cousins, so we don't want them to, be romantically involved because that's just weird. So I think that's a very strong reason for them to make them not romantically involved with each other at all, is because it's going to come out that they are cousins. We'll see if that actually comes out, because Gears of War has a history of alluding to things and showing things, but then not actually telling you straight up. So we'll see how it goes. But let's continue with the trailer.
Something's happening to me. For months now, I've been having these dreams. Nightmares. But I think they were messages.
There's the pendant.
It's your grandmother's?
So now Marcus knows.
There's a place up north. I think we can find you answers there.
Where are we going?
Back to where it all began.
Back to where it all began. Who knows what that could really mean. But then we see this image right here of them in this hallway. There's obviously a locust at the end of the hallway. But this is the same hallway that is in Gears of War 2. Now what this could mean with them saying back to where it all began, maybe this will actually explain everything about the sirens to us, which the games never did. They were just there and they didn't actually explain things. However, due to little fragments in the game and people actually making comic books and books about it, the research facility is talked about where early stages of Rust Lung, when that was first coming out, the scientist dude was figuring out that to combat Rust Lung, he was mutating people and also genetically altering them with locust DNA, because they found a locust who was not having the Rust Lung symptoms as the rest of them. And so they were just mixing and matching, and pretty much that's how the sirens were created. So could this go even further back from that with the explanation of what the locusts are? Who knows? But either way, Marcus knows that this research facility, there was something going on there, and it had a lot of unanswered questions. So I do appreciate them going back, because Gears of War has just left us with a lot of unanswered questions in the series. So I'm hoping that this one will answer those questions back from the original trilogy that they never answered. But we'll see. So let's continue.
I need to know the truth.
Or are we the prey?
So she's obviously getting paranoid, turning on Dell, being like, "Did JD send you?" Blah, blah, blah. And you can just see that she's being messed with psychologically, which I think is really cool. So we'll see how that plays out, though.
She'd never be our enemy by choice. I know that. But what if it's not her choice? The necklace? That's a locust symbol.
I want it out of my head. I want it to stop.
So, in this image here, I think we actually get a pretty big clue of what's going on here. So this little, you see all the swarm and everything, but this structure of organic material in the background, that looks a lot like the thing that Reyna was hooked up to at the end of Gears of War 4, when she's like being drained and like hooked up to the whole system and everything. And then, Kate had to like cut her free and then let her die pretty much. That looks a whole lot like that. Now, whether at this point, if Kate is going to actually, same thing's going to happen to her as what happened to Reyna, who knows? But either way, we know that the Swarm is prepping for that. We know that the Swarm wants that to happen. And so I think this is just a clue of that is what that structure is right there.
I want it to stop.
Katie,
Mom!
cut me loose. Please.
So I think that is a big thing of them showing that she's going to be very messed with psychologically, and potentially she's going to get messages from her dead mother through this Swarm connection, since her dead mother was like already ingrained with this weird Swarm hive mind thing, that there could be fragments of her mother in it still, and she could be sending messages to her from that. Or there are fragments of her in the hive mind, and the hive mind is just using that to try to influence Kate. So I think that is really cool. But then right after this, we get one of the coolest things from this trailer, I believe. So we go back here, right here. Who does that look like to you? That looks like General Rom to me. Now, General Rom's dead. Could very well stay dead. However, in the end of the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, they did show him floating in the emulsion, and it did seem like they kind of made a point to show him floating in the emulsion, versus the original Gears of War. They didn't even show him floating in the emulsion. Back in Gears of War 4, we do know that Locust survived because they were incarcerated in crystallized emulsion, where with Rom, maybe when the light mass bomb went off in the very first one, it blew up, did stuff with the emulsion, and the emulsion crystallized around Rom, and somehow Rom survived. Now, I do believe this is a stretch. It's a stretch that I'd be down for, but either way, it is a stretch. But just look at those eyes, look at the way his nose is, and It's obviously a locust. It definitely looks like Rom. But we do know that like the Theron Guard and a lot of different locusts have a similar look and the same type of nose structure as Rom. So it's very possible that it's not Rom. The main teller of Rom is his mouth is a little different than a lot of the Theron Guard and Locust, but we don't see his mouth, so we can't really say this is Rom for sure. But Rom did have a slight white in his eyes, and this Locust definitely does look like that. His white is in his eyes is very out there with his pupils. Now the other type of Locust that does have white in their eyes is Berserker. And their face format with the nose and everything is a lot like Rom's as well. So this could be a Berserker if it's not Rom. But then I don't know. I've never seen quite the facial expressions with a Berserker. So I don't think it's a Berserker. It looks a lot like Rom to me. So who knows? Could be, could not be. If it's Rom, I am down. If it's not, then it's not. Either way, I do believe that this is a new Locust leader, and if he's some type of Theron Guard that survived, I think that would be super cool as a new villain. But we'll see what they do with it. Little squiddy things. Alright, so they did also introduce the swarm DB bot things. Most people I know were not fans of the DBs. I was not a fan of the DBs. It wasn't that I didn't necessarily have a biggest problem with them, but I just get really bored shooting robots in games, especially Gears of War. Why put robots? This game is all about blood and intense violence and stuff like that, and you're gonna put robots in it, and it's like it just kind of takes away from it, especially this being a heavily emotion filled series. Especially for a shooter, we haven't had quite that much emotion in a video game franchise that's this violent as we do in Gears. And when you're shooting robots, that takes emotion out of it completely. So I think that is a little odd that they chose the direction of the robots. The only thing that was cool with the DBs was the fact that Baird created them, and they are obviously Baird's voice. Once you know that, you listen to it, you can tell that that is Baird's voice that they have a robot version of. But I just thought the DBs were very boring. So this swarm mixture, I do think that this will definitely be a lot better than the Gears of War 4 DBs, because it's cooler, it'll be more fun. They're definitely bringing back more of a horror element to the series with it, which I love, because that was the original intentions of the series, which they kind of strayed away from with Gears 3, and then Gears 4 tried a little bit but didn't really succeed. So I do believe it's getting a little back to the horror element, which is cool. But then the only other thing, which a lot of people are saying, is this is just the Flood. It just looks like the Flood from Halo. It's just them copying the Flood from Halo. Which I can understand. It does kind of look like that. It has that vibe. But it is different, so I can appreciate it. They're obviously going to be not a third faction. They're going to be on the side of the Swarm, considering it is the Swarm who is controlling them. So I think it's cool. But it's whatever. As long as it's not a big focus of the game, I think it is no problem at all. Whereas if they make it a big focus and you're mainly fighting these Flood DBs, then that might get boring. So I hope that they just don't overdo it. But I mean, as far as people being like, oh, they're just copying Halo with Flood, every game pretty much has a version of the Flood, whether it be Halo that did it first. That's very possible. I'm a big fan of Halo, so I don't necessarily have a problem with it. But just look at every single game. They always have some type of zombie, mutant, infection type enemy. Every big franchise does. It's not original, but every game does it. So it's whatever, I guess. And then we get these flying things right here. So, we saw quite a bit will happen right there. So we see there is a infected DB. There's 2 infected DBs and these little squiddy flying things. Now, these kind of look like they could be tiny little sires. Those floating ones back in the original trilogy that would take down the helicopters and whatnot. They sort of look like them, like a tiny version, or I wouldn't say they necessarily look like the Krill, but they could be a new version of the Krill. And let's say they are bringing back Rom, his strong connection with the Krill. That could be a good reason to have these. That could say something. We don't really know. And if Rom is back, I assume he is infected with some sort of emulsion or swarm thing. So that could very well be for the Krill as well. Either way, it might not be the Krill, but it looks like a cool enemy. It's adding something new, so I love it. Got new melee weapons. And the cool gear symbol. Gears 5. So that is the Gears of War 5 official announcement trailer. Not the one that they played at E3, but they released later. This excites me more than the actual E3 trailer, honestly, because I feel like the E3 trailer just kind of left me with more questions, and I was excited, but it just left me with a lot more questions, whereas this showed that much more in those little tiny seconds that I am actually a lot more excited than I was. I'm a big Gears fan, and I can't wait for this to come out. So I'm super pumped. And Gears Tactics looks interesting as well. I like the turn-based type games. Who knows what the hell they're doing with this Gears Pop Funko thing. But either way, I'm super excited for this series to continue, and I just hope that they answer some questions that were raised in the original trilogy that they never answered. But of all things, probably the biggest thing that I hope they answer is what happened to Anya. That really annoyed me that they did not answer what happened to her in Gears of War 4. That was probably the weakest point of the game, is the fact that it's like, oh yeah, she's gone. Like, they hardly even mention her. Like, they do mention her, but there's not much. And like, it had to do with JD, like, from the speculation that I got, and just the vibes of what Gears of War 4 was like, Anya died from something JD did with the cog. Like, he pushed it with his unit or something, and so somehow it ended up in Anya dying. But they don't explain that at all, and they kind of allude that is the reason he left the cog, was because his mom died. Who knows? But I just hope that they actually give us some answers to that. That is probably the weakest point of the Gears series, is how many questions they raise and answers they give. And I just hope that they turn that around and they start answering some questions. I do understand the fact that you don't want to answer too many questions because the mystery. But when it's plot points like what happened to JD's mom, if we just want to know, that's not much of a mystery element that we care about that much. We just want to know that because she was an original character in the trilogy, so we deserve to know. While I don't have a problem with Kate being the new lead in Gears of War 5, I think that's a pretty cool idea. I do hope that we get some missions with JD. If it swaps back and forth, I am super down for that. I think that there's a lot of growth with JD's character that we can see, and I'm excited for the new JD. A lot of people are speculating about JD, whether they like him or not. I think that he is really badass now and definitely an improvement from what he was in Gears of War 4. But that wraps up my Gears of War 5 trailer breakdown. If you liked it, leave it a like and hit subscribe, because there's definitely more of these types of videos that are going to come out. Comment, let me know if you think my ROM idea has any merit to it, as well as the Kate and JD being cousins. For now, that's just speculation. We'll see if anything at all comes out of either of those ideas. Let me know if you think that I'm just full of shit or if you actually agree with that. But either way, I'd love to hear your guys' other thoughts on this trailer. Let me know if there's something that is very blatantly obvious that I missed and that you thought was cool. Let me know. I'm very interested. I love Gears of War. It's my favorite series, and I am super excited for this game. So hit subscribe and just wait for more Gears of War related content and check out our other videos.